Hello everyone, so this is it, the first run through on YouTube of knives that are coming up for sale soon. So these knives will go live on Sunday the 31st of May, which is this weekend coming. They'll be live at 7 p.m. Irish time. There's 22 knives on the bill and yeah, a nice spread of different styles in this drop. So we've got bread knives, chef knives. There's two bunkers. Might not have heard of a bunker, but I'll go through that shortly. Petties, which are kind of medium-sized chef knife. There is a fillet knife in there made of high carbon steel. There's a Honkotsu, which is a Japanese boning knife for like meat, poultry, things like that. There's the invaluable paring knives, and then there's two little mini boning knives too, which are becoming something of a favorite. I really like making them, and they're very handy as either like a little paring knife or a fruit knife, blah blah blah. There we go, we'll get there. Right, let's start. So for years I was asked, when are you going to make a bread knife? And I just kicked it down the road. I don't know whether I was a little bit intimidated by it, like, oh, you know, making a knife is one thing, but serrations, where do I even start, you know? So I shied away, which is pathetic. Anyway, this year I've made probably about 14, 15 of these so far, but these two, this is the first one with shredded carbon fiber and gold. These two are the first bread knives to actually make it onto the website. Everything has been done sort of semi-custom up until now. So that's the first one. It's, as I say, shredded carbon fiber and gold there. Lovely finish to that handle. These are stainless steel, so a 3mm stock stainless steel. They should have great edge retention. Really shouldn't really need to be sharpened, the bread knife like this. It should hold its edge very nicely through its life. That handle is Australian Gidgee. Again, one of my favorite timbers, all the way from Australia. Lovely stuff. It really is handsome. So that's the bread knives, only two of those. Onto the chef knives. This is the first of the chef knives with a desert ironwood handle. So that wood is really, really beautiful. It's all the way from Arizona in the US. Just a little run through of the dimensions on these chef knives. So these chef knives are the sort of classic 8-inch length, right? They're a 3mm spine stock, so they're not super skinny, lean, whippy. There's a little bit of stoutness there, but at the same time they come to a very fine tip at the end. So, you know, they're not only good for, you know, this deeper section where it's more pushing up and down, but also the tip is fine, so you can let's say dice an onion or garlic or this or that, you know. It's actually a nice all-round performing knife. The heel height on them is something that I really like. A taller heel than perhaps some chef knives. Some people would go for like 50 something millimeters heel. My heels would always be around 62 millimeters, a little bit more. And it's for knuckle clearance, so you don't want to be bumping the board with your knuckles. It's tiring, you know. So I try and make my knives a little bit taller, and I like it. And I think that's been sort of my ethos since I started making. Make something that you enjoy, and maybe other people will enjoy too, you know. Of course, some people will enjoy another maker's knives more, and that's perfect, but you have to be able to back your product, you know. And I make these knives to the best of my ability and to my taste to a degree, if that makes sense. And I just hope that that sort of comes across, so people think like, yeah, I can see why you do it that way, because, you know, there has been plenty of iterations. There's been plenty of process of making each of these models, and we are where we are for a reason, because previous iterations didn't quite, you know, didn't quite land like these do. This is a second chef knife. This one is a really lovely piece of dyed blue mango. Again, same dimensions. These will be around about the same weight as well, you know, from one knife to the next. Obviously some handle materials might be a touch more dense, but overall these generally weigh around the 200 grams mark. The steel on these knives is 14C28N, which is a Swedish steel. It's a stainless steel, but the carbon content is respectable. So you kind of have the best of both worlds. You've got the stainless element, which is very desirable in something like a chef knife, because it just keeps a touch of the maintenance down. But also the carbon content is there, and carbon content sort of has a lot to do with edge retention. So how long will your knife stay sharp for has something to do with the carbon, you know. So these are the sort of the Goldilocks, the sweet spot. They still have the edge retention, but they have the low maintenance factor. This is a lovely one. You can see there, this is shredded carbon fiber too, along the lines of the bread knife one earlier, except instead of gold, this is copper. So that's our chef knives. Very versatile, heavy hitters in the kitchen. Now, I said earlier about the bunker. What is a bunker? That's a bunker. So it's kind of, it's not like a Nakiri. 1 second. This is one of my older Nakiris from my own collection. So that's a Nakiri, right? Very much geared towards vegetables. This one is similar, as you can see, but it does come to more of a narrower tip. Nice tall heel on these. Again, this is stainless steel, 3mm 14C28N. The heel on this is 67mm. So if you measure your own kitchen knives at home, it's probably significantly taller, but a real pleasure to use these knives. They're really, you're way up off the board, and you know, because of the heel height like that, if you can imagine, the spine is the same, but the thinness behind the edge that you get is really enjoyable to work with, you know, really nice to use. Yeah, I can't say enough about the bunker. It's one of my favorite shapes. I have probably 4 of them in my own collection from different makers around the world, because a small bit of an obsession with those. And here's the second one. This one is in a fancier steel. So this one is a multi-layered steel, 63 layers in this knife. The dark grey layer is the core, and obviously you have 31 other layers, paler. The handle on it is desert ironwood again. Really, really lovely timber. One of my favorites to use. It's actually not that nice to make with, but at the same time, the final finish is stunning. As you're making with it, it stinks. As it's burning, it's like, oh, that's not nice. But anyway, the final finish is worth every bit of that. So yeah, lovely, lovely stuff. Now I have 6 stainless petits. So petit comes from the French word petite, meaning small. And as you can see, it's a chef knife, but just slightly more diminutive. So that's the 8-inch chef knife. This is about 6-inch. So 155mm blade length. The heel height is 44mm, but you still have that knuckle clearance. You know, you still have that. These particularly appeal to people who like a slightly smaller knife, or who find the big classic chef knife to be just a bit intimidating. I've had plenty of people say, oh, I just feel like I'm going to cut myself. None of us want that, you know, and perhaps this is the size, you know, for you. Again, the same 3mm stock that I like making with, because you know, I just feel like it's optimal. You have a feeling of substance without it feeling clumsy. The handle on this one is actually shredded dollar bills. So American currency, shredded and then set into a resin by the very talented Hubro Arts, who you'll find on Instagram, coming up with all sorts of funky handle materials, and a good dude too. The next one is a piece of Indonesian mango, so quite sort of variegated colour there with the speckles and spalting. There you go. I paired that with a white liner because I felt that the black might just be a bit sort of dull on that timber. I thought we'll just brighten it with a white liner. So as a maker, you have to sort of box clever when it comes to your materials. You have to try and squeeze as much out of them as you can, you know, and again, optimize the final product. So case in point, the next one is another resin handle from Hubro Arts, this time with like a black mesh. There you go, set in a clear resin. If I put that over a black liner, what would you see? Nothing. You wouldn't see anything. Now you could put it over a jade liner maybe, or a pink liner, you could, but the white is really going to pop that black mesh. So there you go. There's a little bit of the sort of thinking behind the process. You can just go into it both feet, but if you try and optimize things, you do get a better product, I think, you know, trying to get the best from your materials. This one is a lovely piece of Gidgee again, and again with the white liners, just for contrast and complement. There you go. So 14C28M for these two. Lovely little nimble petty, very handy in the kitchen. Another one there. This one is a piece of rippled blue ash, so you can see the ripples there. So even though the lines are going sideways like that, the grain is running that way, but the crinkles that you're seeing are formed by intense pressures in the tree, which sort of crumple the grain along its length, and you get that lovely chatoyant figure, which I quite often go for. And yeah, at this point now, my wood suppliers are sort of like, look, I know what you want. So that's a fine thing. Yeah, I love that sort of cross crinkled grain. And then this is the last of these petties. There it is, a piece of Kieranite it's called, and I just call it oyster Kieranite because that's kind of what it reminds me of. Again, you've got a lovely sort of ripple, pearlescent element to that. Very practical too. Takes a lovely polish. Water will never get into that. It's completely waterproof. So very practical too. And then this one is kind of like a hybrid between a bunker, which is a big bad boy. It's a small bunker, so it's kind of petty dimensions, but bunker styling. Again with the Sumo-Nagashi VG10 core steel, a Gidgee handle and white liners. There you go. That's a nice little one. I really like that one. It's also the best of both. It's got the bunker feel, but it's nimble. There we go. This one is a fish filleting knife. So I went for carbon steel on this one, and it's thinner. It's like 2.2 millimeters stock thickness, you know. So already you've got that advantage with the flex. So once it's thinned out along its length, you've got a nice little flex there without it being too whippy. I've used fillet knives before that are very whippy, and I don't know, some people love that. I don't. I think I like a little bit of control over where that blade is gonna be and how much I can kind of lean into it without it being wobbly bob. But also, you know, a fish fillet knife that's too stiff and has no flex is not nice either. So yeah, just trying to get a sweet spot there where it's got a little bit of both is what I go for. And because of the high carbon steel, it should have really good edge retention. Fish fillet knives are coming into contact with bones, albeit them small, and bones equal, you know, reduction in edge. So I went for the high carbon because that's what I did. Again, with a high carbon one here with a white Hubro Arts resin handle over black liners. Yeah, these are a handy little knife. This one's very lean, perfect for things like poultry, fish too, you can. And yeah, just general deboning. I have a lot of knives in my own collection, and you know, I do a little bit of butchery, especially in the winter, and this shape is the one that I use for almost all of it. You know, you'd have a chef knife in the mix, you'd have a paring knife in the mix, but that bad boy is just invaluable when it comes to breaking down anything like that, you know, like a chicken or a deer or whatever. Debone, bone and rolling a leg, something like that. Around Christmas time maybe, people might be doing things like that. Very handy. Right, we're on to the paring knives now. So there's 4 of these. This one is a really lovely piece of blue mango. The blade length on these is 85 millimeters, and then the heel height I think is about 22 millimeters. So obviously with a paring knife, you're not going to get what I keep going on about, knuckle clearance. It's not going to happen. Like, it's just a dinky little knife, and it's to be used as such. You know, you're not going to be chopping through a lot of big things on a chopping board. You're going to be doing things like peeling onions, opening packaging, yeah, all sorts of bits and pieces like that around the kitchen, cutting cherry tomatoes, things like that. Some people use them for everything, and that's fine too, but traditionally it would be for paring, peeling, turning, all those kinds of things in the kitchen, the small and nimble little jobs. Again, it might surprise you to know that I use a 3mm stock on those, but with a heavy taper to a fine tip, and it gives you a feeling of substance. You feel like you're holding something, do you know, rather than something that's featherweight and it's going to sort of float away from you. These feel like a compact little unit, you know, and they're a pleasure to use, in my opinion. I know self-praise is no praise, but anyway, look, it's not really self-praise. They are a nice thing to use because they have that right feel to them. This is a very handsome piece of, 1 second, mango over white liners. Over the years I've made so many mistakes with wood, and the lads who are my wood suppliers text me and say, yeah, that's actually walnut, not mango, whatever. So I'm trying to get this right now, but that is actually mango. There you go. You're always going to make a few mistakes, especially with these one-take videos. You know, you're always going to get something where you watch back and you think like, what was that? But anyway, there you go. A lovely piece of mango there. 14C28N, stainless, practical, nimble, handy, extension of the hand. Look at that bad boy. There we go. Abalone, set in clear resin. Very practical. Lovely polish on those handles. Whatever they're made of, they take such a fine polish. It really does look good. Black liners. Can't beat it. And then this one is a very interesting material. That's just a black handle, Sam. No, it isn't. It's Formula One carbon fibre. So this is sourced from a Formula One team in the UK. It's sort of, it comes to me as like offcuts from the production of Formula One cars. So once they've obviously like CNC'd out parts for the cars, the offcuts are no use to them, and they're very useful for people like me. So I make handles from them. There you go. Everyone thinks carbon fibre is super light. It's not super light. It's super light in comparison to steel or other metals. So it's a comparison thing. These do not feel light. They feel substantial, extremely practical, because they're completely waterproof. They're very positive in the hand. Again, not that nice to make with, but at the same time, that's not your problem. That's my problem. There you go. Yeah, lovely stuff. Takes a nice polish. It'll always look the same, and I don't think it'll ever go out of fashion. It's got a nice little provenance too as well. The idea of it coming from a Formula One car, like it's a bit different, isn't it? You know, and it's also nice to recycle things and not just, I don't know, go into some sort of landfill or something like that. It's nice to actually make something from those offcuts. I like the idea of that anyway. Love this little thing. Love this little thing. It's again blue rippled mango, dyed blue by the very talented Italian Elia. He does a great job. He's a great professional and a great person. There you go. A lovely little Hankotsu. That's the name of this Japanese boning knife, but in comparison, look at that. And we're actually going to go a step further down in a second too, to an even smaller one. So yeah, that's obviously meant for the full Monty, but this little fella, it could be used as a paring knife. It could be used for small game beds, poultry. It could be used for chicken. It could be used for fish. It could be used for all sorts of things really. Fruit, it could be like a little fruit knife. They seem to be popular back years ago, didn't they? You don't really hear talk of fruit knives anymore. And I did say we were going to go a step down again. There we go. That's actually smaller again. So a really lovely handle there. Spalted beech with a ripple in it, and a nice fancy steel, the VG10 Sumi Nagashi steel on that, with a skinny black liner. You can see the character in that steel is so lovely. So again, all the same as for the previous listing as regards uses and versatility. 22 knives, Sunday the 31st at 7 p.m. Irish time. That's the story. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the sale. Looking forward to people picking up these knives. And yeah, I hope people enjoy them, because yeah, it's a nice job to make things that are useful and people, enjoy. So thank you for watching my video very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate you subscribing too. If you could like the page, if you could comment, that'd be unbelievable. I know it's a bit of an effort, but it all does wonders for pushing this kind of content. Also, if you think that I can improve with this kind of YouTube content, feel free to message me or whatever, give me a tip, because yeah, I've done video on Instagram before, but not really on YouTube. So I could be making mistakes that people say like, that's very repetitive, or why not spice it up with this? And we'll see. So advice is welcome. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.